So, good morning. I would like to welcome you to this fourth day of our course, and we will continue in this interesting topic, that is the development of new foods, and discuss about new alternatives that we have for people to introduce this kind of foods in their daily lives, daily diet. So now we will talk a little and discuss about the possibility of the inclusion of insects as foods in many countries, many regions. This is not new. This is not a novelty. I don't know how it is here in India, but I know that in several Asian countries and also in Africa, Central America, they have this custom, this habit of consume insects as foods for years and years ago. So we will see, especially in Western societies in Europe, that how is the willingness and the perspective of the populations to see how they are available, they are prepared to even try taste the inclusion of these insects in their diets. So first, I would like to talk about food neophobia. This is the terminology I have already talked to you yesterday when we were talking about the jellyfish as food. Because first of all, it is important to evaluate, to assess how that community, how that population can be more or less neophobic, more or less prepared to try to accept the inclusion of something that is strange, that is not common in their diet, to see that foods, and prepared to include it in the diet. So, the food neurophobia and its association with food behavior and choices. And we have three types of consumers can be classified according to behavior and novel food rejection. We have the neophobic ones that tend to reject unfamiliar foods, and we have the neophilic, the called neophilic, that are more tend to accept these unfamiliar foods, as are the example of jellyfish and also the insects. And then we have the neutral that are in the middle of these two categories. So food neophobia has been repeatedly measured using a scale, the food neophobia scale. It was initially developed by these two researchers, Pliner and Ogden, in 1992. The food neophobia can be influenced by some factors, of course, and the most remarkable ones are the age, the fact that people are living in the urban cities or in rural areas, the gender, the education, and the income, and the culture. So there is a much broader food selection today than several decades ago, due to globalization, easier transport of these goods and this food. So today we have more options to make the election of our foods to be incorporated in our diets. In general, younger people have been exposed at early age to exotic foods compared to older people. Positive relationship between age and food neophobia is also expected. In the urban areas, in cities, food availability is much broader compared to the rural areas, especially in some specific regions, in some specific countries. The people in rural areas may be less exposed to this, so may have higher level of food neophobia. It is expected, not a rule, but it is more probable. The results suggest that in this case, Lebanese college students have higher food neophobia scores compared with American college students, and that Swedes are more willing to try novel foods compared to Americans or Finns, the people that live in the north of Europe. So neophobia decreases as education increases and as income increases. We can find this relation in several investigations, and the effective gender on phobia is still unclear. In some cases, we have men that show less neophobic values, and in the others are the women. So this is not very clear. This relationship between the food neophobia and gender, and this is the main reasons for people to be neophobic. The trust, the danger, aversion, disgust, trade, state, good taste. But of course, they can be more. This is very personal. What motivates you to try or not to try a new food product? So, since neophobia can influence preferences toward novel foods, understanding its potential impact on consumers' food selections has always been an important issue for food product developers and marketers. So insects, also called as entomophagy. So we have worldwide about more than 100 countries, 113 countries all over the world that practices this. So eat insects and see these insects as food. We have more than 2,000 insect species, and they are divided, of course, into different organs, and they have the potential to contribute to the world's food security, as same as jellyfish. If we can use some of this to be incorporated in our diets and substitute some of the main products used nowadays, so we are contributing also for this food security, and we are able to feed up a lot of people in the world. Here we can talk about some nutritional benefits, and that is their high energy and protein content, a good amino acid and fatty acid profiles, and also rich in some minerals like copper, iron, magnesium, manganese, phosphorus, selenium, and zinc, just to mention some of them. Of course, this will vary. And according by the insect species, we have a lot range of insect species that can be used as foods, and of course we have to analyze and compare them species by species. They can also be a sustainable source of food once waste biodegradation as pollinators in plant reproduction, high feed conversion efficiency. The production is less land dependent than conventional livestock. Then I will show you a figure that represents and shows this very well. Produce less greenhouse gases in its consequence, of course, and use significantly less water than the conventional livestock. So here we have a table with a comparison between some examples of insects, and we can find interesting values that I would like to highlight here. For example, regarding to the fat composition, the short fat acids, the monounsaturated fatty acids, and the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and also some of the minerals I mentioned earlier. But attention that we have also some species with a relevant content of sodium. Okay, so you have to see species by species, and they have different compositions, like the foods we are more accustomed to work. So, the acceptance in Western societies. Most consumers in this side of the world are still not keen on eating insects, and the reasons are various. So, since the perceived dangerousness, because we associate insects to dirt, to diseases, so they are kind of vehicles of diseases, of infestations, of contamination. So it is strange, at least for our society in the West, and because also we never consume them, to now become a people to say we must start to introduce these insects in our recipes, in our foods. So it is quite strange, believe me, at least in the West, in the Western Europe. So, and then of course the negative taste expectations, people that never try, but simply don't believe that these preparations will have a good taste. The low levels of expected enjoyment, uncertainty about the origin, and the disgust. So, informing people about the nutritive and environmental benefits of insect consumption has proven insufficient to convince various consumer groups to accept insects as a new food source. And I think this is easy to understand. It can be very sustainable, it can be very good for the planet. They can be very nutritive, but that I don't care about that. I don't want. So the negative aspects related to them are heavier than this positive that we can talk to the picture. And then of course it will depend. It will depend on the populations we are trying to introduce them. As I mentioned yesterday, for example, in Portugal, it is not so strange to try to introduce some new food product that come from the sea. We are more accustomed to eat fish, to eat the fish products, than a new food product that comes from the land, like the example of insects. Perhaps in other societies, in other countries, it is not so difficult. But there, and we have some research groups, some people that were trying to innovate and to make some dishes with insects and explain their benefits, everything regarding the nutritional profile, the healthy benefits, the sustainability benefits. But people don't want to even to try these food products or see it, or see these products as food. And then we have the mass production of insects that can be expensive because this is not we cannot eat the insects catching them from the nature and then simply eat them. No, they have of course to follow all the food legislation, and their mass production can be high. You have here the examples of some of these food products, for example, sold in Netherlands, and we have 50 grams of freeze-dried mealworms that are sold for about €5, and we need to add the shipping costs. Develop rearing and harvest, as well as the post-harvest processing technology and the safety of monitoring for automation of insect production. This has or can have high costs. So, the information concerning the cross-border trade, economic importance, or food safety aspects of their processed products remains quite limited. We should know that not all of the insect species are considered safe to eat. There may be some allergic reactions. We have now seen published a lot of studies regarding to this, the potential allergic reactions to the insect proteins. Of course, there can be favorable conditions for microbial growth, so we have to pay attention for the microbial contamination of these products. Here we have some examples of contamination in freshly harvested insect products with Escherichia coli and Klebsiella aerogenes, and some microorganisms weighted from the gut. The domestic housefly are these ones that can be also harmful for people. The Staphylococcus aureus, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Aspergillus tamari, and Bacillus cereus. So they can be also, if they are not controlled their production, these hazards can also affect the insects and become a potential health threat. Here we have one more table with some with approximate composition of some selected traditional insects, in this case from Africa, and we can easily see that their content in protein is very interesting. And also here in this table we don't have the relation of the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids, but they have very interesting content on this. So here we have some protein content of some insect classes and the number of specific insect species compared to beef and pork. And by analyzing this, we see that we are in presence of perhaps a good substitute. Of course, then we should analyze also how is the digestion and availability of this kind of protein, but just comparing with the content and on the dry weight basis, you see that we have some examples with a good protein content, especially these first three classes: Orthoptera, Lepidoptera, and Coloptera. If you compare directly with the last two charts that are related with beef and pork. This is the essential amino acids for insect species, also compared with the recommendations. This chart in black is the recommendations, and we can also see that they are very close. In yellow, we have the Bombay locust, the red, the scarab beetle. In blue, we have the house cricket, and green, the mulberry silkworm. This is different insect species that are used as foods. And then if we see very close, even in someone's higher than the recommendations of this amino acid intakes from World Health Organization. Yes, and here we have the fatty acid composition of the oil of some selected traditional insects that we can find in this case in Western Kenya in Africa. And most of insects present a saturated non-saturated fat acid ratio below 40%, which is better than those observed in fish or chicken, and more polyunsaturated fatty acids like linolenic and linoleic acids are present. So I think this analysis, these values are very interesting. We can see also here the mineral composition. See that iron and zinc contents are quite special, important, as this mineral are often deficient in developing countries, especially in these areas of Africa where we have deficits in minerals and in iron and zinc. So this can be a good way of a fight against these deficiencies. The vitamin content, apart of containing large amount of minerals, they can be also an interesting source of vitamins. For example, vitamin A, vitamin B group 2, and ascorbic acid, vitamin C. It is also noteworthy, however, that some complementary foods have been formulated with termites as one of the fortificants used for Kenyan infants. Okay, we have also formulated products to be served to infants with the inclusion of insect protein and complementary food developed by including these edible insects as ingredients for formulation was well liked by both infants and the mothers. So, and this study was carried out in Africa, in a special region that the needs regarding this are very crucial. And this is the image that I talked to you. We have here the resource use and environment impact parameters of insect farming against or versus other livestock. And we can see the relevant differences, the huge difference, I say, between what we need to produce beef, pork, chicken, compared with cricket. We can see, for example, the liters per grain of protein produced. We can see that, for example, in beef we have more than 100 liters of water that we need, and in cricket 2 liters. So this is a huge difference, and this is what we are not wasting of so important resource we have, and we don't have in too much quantity, that is water, to produce protein from cricket, and even for chicken, that is the more close to cricket, we have 34 liters of water we need to produce the chicken protein compared with the insect, in this case, the cricket. And this is the same when we compare the greenhouse gas emissions, the CO2 equivalents that are that are spent in the production of these different kinds of protein, the milligrams per dry kilograms of mass we gain, the kilogram mass gain, and the digestible weight. So these differences are very, very huge. And of course, if we can incorporate these insects as foods, these insects protein in substitution to other ones we are more used to in our daily diets, in our day to day. So we are also being sustainable and preserving our planet. The allergenic potentials. Yes, we have some studies that alert for this fact, and of course, this must be paid attention because as there are people allergic, have allergic reactions to shellfish, to fish, to meat. It may be people that have some kind of allergic to insects. And of course, when we are talking about new foods and that we must assure these new food products are innocuous to the people, apart of being nutritious or taste good. The food safety must be assured. So it is very important to carry out studies to see the allergic potential of these new species that are incorporated in the diet of people. And here in Asia, Africa, are generally harvested from the wild, but semi-domestication and farming are also becoming more and more common. This is some examples of some countries where we have wild harvesting, semi-domestication, and farming. In Europe, while some companies are doing, it's farming special and defined species of insects, and to be prepared, and all of their rearing is monitored and controlled to be then sold as food products. And of course, they must accomplish with all the rules of food legislation. So, but of course, in some other places, we may have also the wild harvesting and also the semi-domestication. What can we conclude from this? That product development requires detailed knowledge of the products and the customers. Very important to know the profile not only of the products but the potential consumers, the potential customers, which is why quantitative and qualitative marketing studies must be carried out before launching any product on the market. This is very relevant for every company, for everyone who wants to introduce something new in the market, to know the needs of that population, what that population prefer. So, because if they make this introduction as blind, they can lose money because I can think in a wonderful product, but it can be a wonderful product for Indian population, not for the Portuguese population, and vice versa. So I need to know the culture, what that population is looking for, what that population are accustomed to. So see if my new product, in this case new food product, is within the expectations of that population, and how far I am from the expectations. Of course, it will be more difficult and harder to get the acceptance or even the willingness to try of that product. So, while consumer research and marketing have paid special attention to those interested in new food products, with concepts such as lead user, relatively little attention has been paid to the neophobic consumer. the consumer, of course, that is not willing to try these new foods, and the potential impact on the guidance provided from consumer testing to developers during the new product development process. In purchase decisions involving novel foods, consumers who are more reluctant to try novel foods project more of their own personal values through the attributes of the product, which takes them to a higher degree of abstraction. Overall, irrespective of neophobia levels, consumers adopt innovative food products for hedonic reasons: the taste, the enjoyment of pleasure, or pleasure it provides, or for its easy preparation. This is very important nowadays. The way we have or we need to prepare that product, because people in most of the society don't have time. They live their lives very busy. They start their day early in the morning, arrive at home in the night, and prepare all the things for next day. So this is an important aspect. Of course, the nutritional value and the health benefits and quality, and for the enhancement of their quality of life and security, and because it enables them to eat well. So this indicates the need to analyze the cognitive structure of consumers for each specific innovation that arises in the market, in order to establish the communication and positioning strategies most appropriate in each case. And the insect rearing and processing are still in their first stages, we can call infant stages, in many European countries. Notwithstanding, there are signs that the consumption of insect-based food is making its way to Europe and will likely become more acceptable in future. But of course, this will take time. I don't know, but we started to talk about insects as foods, at least in Europe, with more impact. I don't know, perhaps 10, 15 years ago, but only in the last 2 years we see some of these products in some shops in the market, very few we see, and the time is important. This is not from one day to the other, it takes time, and the European legislation was also adapted. A lot of research was necessary and was done in this way, and then you have the people's willingness to try to incorporate these insect-based products in their diets. In recent years, many insects have been shown to possess very good nutritional profiles, that is unquestionable, and are thus a good alternative to other protein origins. Due to the nutritional quality of most of these edible insects, they will cut greenhouse gas emissions and be ecologically relevant when widely consumed as source of protein, and of course when they will replace other sources of protein that the most of the people are used to consume. In recent years, many insects have been shown to possess these good nutritional profiles. So, what can we say about this? It is important then only to not only to study the nutritional content, but other type of studies that are carried out is regarding the availability, the absorption, and disaster of this element. So this is also very important to do. The next crucial step will be how to ensure that food derived from insects are safe and placed on the market legally. And this is what we are done at this moment, that we are still making, and it is regarding the legislation. In view of malnutrition and food shortage, insect rearing may offer a new source of sustainable food. I think this is clear. And indigenous traditional knowledge associated with wild harvesting and local insect consumption, especially in the continents of Africa and Asia, will complement scientific knowledge that is necessary to boost the supply of insects through large-scale farming. So this is also relevant. One thing is the local production. Another thing is that people will widely consume these insect-based products, and we will need to produce them at a large scale. So this is what I have to discuss with you. And now, please let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinion and any question, please. This is very related with the topic we have discussed yesterday. Here we are talking about insects. Yesterday we talked about the jellyfish, but we can find here some common aspects since both of them are quite new, especially for Western societies, for European countries. I don't know if you here in India have the traditional consumption of insects. Please let me know also your experience. Perhaps in some regions, others not so implemented. So let me know. Do you often consume insects in your
No, sir.
no? But
Like
no, not here or not in all the country. You have not
in
that.
India, I think only northeast part, that too few states in northeast part consume insects
Yes.
like grasshoppers, worms and all. Not rest of north and south they don't.
Okay.
Even in India, like in south part, aquatic animals. Even if we talk about aquatic, we eat prawns, crabs and all. That are not even that are accepted in north
Okay.
side. So how can they accept insects?
And you are a question I have to you. You are more willingness to try insects or, for example, jellyfish? If I make this question to you, if you have to choose one of these, you are more able to
Not
try
insects maybe.
not insects. Interesting. The same for all of you. You would prefer to try jellyfish than insects, or someone perhaps would prefer
Because
to
even like in my
some
class
reasons.
also, when I was in UG or in masters also, whenever I talk about prawns or crabs, they used to say like, do you eat crabs? Even crabs? We're like, yeah, it's tasty. We're like, oh no. So I don't think so. Insects. Even in South, we don't accept insects. So I don't think so. In India, it's possible.
Yes, that will depends a lot of the habits of the culture. This is also psychological question we have here, and sometimes people never tried some kind of food, an insect, whatever, a crab, but one time for one special reason decide to try. Okay, let's try, and some of that people say, "Oh, this is good." A lot of years that I that I lost the opportunity, and that is a problem because the people are not keen to try. You never know if you like the taste or no. Forget the nutrition or the health in all of that issues. Only the possibility of to experiment to try that new thing. If you don't try, you can't say I don't. I like. I don't like, and that occurs with a lot of people that never tried and one day because someone could convince convince he or she to try and find that is this is not so bad as I was thinking that can happen and there are some people that find some similarities in the taste of some of these insects with for example chicken meat. I know people that this oh this grasshopper, this melon, the taste is quite. Of course, the texture, everything is different, but find some similarities with other
That
foods
similarity question will
that are
occur only if they try. But they are not even willing to imagine those things.
yes, yes,
Trying
yes,
out.
yes. But the mind has an important role on this because this first study we should take the to see how neophobic or not are the population is very important, and this is to evaluate also the psychological structure of the person to see how familiar or not how keen or not is that population to try to even try that new thing, that new food in their life. So that is very important, and this varies from society to society, and this is dependent from the cultures, from the knowledge, from what are people accustomed. If we are in a country that has the usage of consume of products from the land or from the sea, this is very relevant, and this will make difference in the time of people even try or not that that food, in this case, insect-based food products.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I'd just like to add on to that in the central region of India, mostly in the western area from where
Yes.
I belong, the tribal people they try red ants. So it's like a puree. It's quite famous. So that's what I would like to let you know that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's way more
Yes,
famous.
it occurs also in the Africa and also in Central America, especially in rural. This is a very important source of food for those people, and they even rear the insects and they even cook them. This is what can be strange for us or for Western societies or people that live in the cities. For most or a huge large amount of people that live in rural areas. You know, I believe that not only in India but in other Asian countries and also in Africa and Central America. For example, in Mexico, they consume also a lot. But of course, in the countryside, in the rural areas, it is an important way to feed up the people. And as we see, can have here with this example, this study that in Kenya, in this African country, they make formulations to the infants with 45 with vitamin A, with some important and other important minerals to give up the population with insect-based products. So this can be relevant, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your
Thank you, sir.
sharing. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, like you were saying, there are a lot of areas in the northeast where this is very common and very traditionally eaten insect foods. I
Here
don't.
in India, in the
Yeah,
north, in the
yes,
north,
in the northeast.
northeast,
Northeast, they in fact they take it as a delicacy. Like they even make
as
this
a
lad.
delicacy. They see it as a delicacy or because it is a need. That is important also. That's a good point.
So
Or both.
I'm not an expert, but in some tribal areas they you make laddus of insects and they use it during festivals, and
Oh,
it's also
interesting.
expensive in that relative
Yes,
their
yes.
rates. So it's considered very special,
Yes,
a
that
special
is a good
dish.
point because one thing, for example, jellyfish is more seen as a delicacy and not so as to accomplish the needs of the people. And here, instance, I can see them not only as a delicacy, of course, it may be as you state now, but with if we can stabilize and mass production and we can arrive to an ended product with a good price and with possibilities to feed up a large amount of people. The problem is that people will accept the introduction of these insect-based products in their diets. But that is an interesting point you touched. The fact that also can be seen also as a delicacy. Perhaps some species, perhaps some ways of preparation that can differ from the common way of preparation or the preparation in the daily diet, or just in special occasions, and has that connotation with the delicacy, add value food products.
So my
Yes.
question is also, how is there any scale or questionnaire that you would suggest to assess the cognitive structure of the consumers, and where you had mentioned where the consumers
Regarding
project
these neophobic scales, the questionnaire. Yes, there are validated questionnaires, and then we have validated questions, for example, for the Spanish population and some adaptations to the Portuguese population. And then, of course, if you want to use this, for example, here in India, I don't know, I'm not sure if there are any validated published paper that validated this scale for the Indian population. That would be interesting. I don't know, perhaps there is, and yes, that is public. Yes, the food neophobic scale is published and in diverse languages, And for the Indian, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it is already validated, but if not, it can be an interesting work to do.
So if it's possible later, if you could share that and see if we can
Yes,
watch.
yes. I don't know if they will have access to the presentations at the end of the course. Yes, to the. Yes, they have access to the slideshow, or no? Yes, do you do? Yes. Oh, thank you, thank you. There you have the references, but I can share the paper and where the scales are published. I can share with you. No problem, of course. If not, please remember me. But today I will send to Dr. Tespa. Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So my question is, how close are we to seeing insect-based products being widely accepted or sold in European or Western countries?
In European restaurants.
European countries and Western countries.
In European countries. So that is, for example, in my country there is a problem. They are not very well accepted. That is one of the biggest problems in some European countries because we are very far to see insects as food, and not even in the rural areas. We have other sources of protein, other sources of and the insects are very bad seen because they are related with dirt, with diseases, contamination. So you go to even in the rural areas of Portugal and even Spain, France, tell people, especially even older people. Now you will try this fantastic bread made up with insect flour. People will say you are mad. I will not try this. Not at all. I don't care if it is healthy, nutrition. No, that is a very difficult challenge for European countries, and in special for Portuguese people, for Portugal that I know better, of course. It is very difficult. Of course, if you are in a country that some parts of that population, or even some tribal, some rural people already consume some kind of that product, perhaps it is easier. We can show to the others that if some of our populations already do it, why not even try? But in Europe, it's not so easy. People can try, but perhaps younger people, that other people that see in the world in a global perspective, or want to try just to see that you can say are open-minded. But if we go to, especially to rural areas, and to older people, older, not very older, but people, adult people, it is complicated to convince them to try, not to incorporate in the diet. We are not on that step, just to try. People will not want to try. Why I will eat this, and why and not fish, and not chicken, and not pork, and not beef? Why? Why is the reason? And you say, oh, it's sustainability. This is not for for their specific needs. They don't care about that sustainability. I will not start with insects for the sustainability. They must see some specific and positive effect to do that. And insects are very bad connoted in Europe. And some research groups have started to study and vary formulations to incorporate them in the diet and new foods. But when say to the most of the population, this is an insect-based food product, a large amount of people, especially the adult and older, don't want to.
Thank you, sir.
That is a great challenge, especially for us in Europe. I believe here in Asia, in African countries, maybe in America, can be easier. Can be easier to go further behind this step. Yes, yes.
So
Thank
if
you for your
it's not
question.
so common in Europe, then what brought you to this research?
It is not so common, but that is the challenge. we should find some strategies and some way. Of course, I don't want from one day to other to make people change their routines and their habits and to start to eating this. But if I can do that, some parts of the population of some people start to incorporate, start to taste, I think that is a good point. Because if you see, special from the sustainability point of view, it is a huge difference. It is a huge difference for our planet to keep producing livestock or start to produce insects, even at a mass production scale. But of course, it's not easy. That's true.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, sir, what could be the impact of large-scale insect farming on preserving biodiversity and preventing overexploitation of wild insects?
What?
What could be the impact of large-scale insect farming on preserving biodiversity and preventing overexploitation of wild insects?
No, that will depends the total amount on the quantity of insects we would like to produce, and the conditions we will need to produce that rearing of insects. Of course, the idea is like jellyfish. We don't want to put a specific species endangered. We have to find strategies to preserve their habitats, of course, and then like the aquaculture in fish, we should find some special conditions to farm these insects, and of course that farm and that rearing those insects accomplish with all the requirements that are in legislation. We are also working on that field to harmonize the legislation, because not so many years ago insects couldn't be sold as food in Europe. That was not allowed because they are not in the food legislation considered as food. So lot of essays, lot of experiments, and of course lot of time we need until all of this is harmonized. The context in Europe, I believe it is quite different from other continents, because we have no experience with insects as food. It's like I arrive here and say you to eat something that you and no, not of you, not of no parts of your population eat that. So to start, we have to make a lot of evaluations, toxicological evaluations, safety evaluations, and this takes time.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
In some parts of India, like Nagaland, East India, uh, they eat insect like ant. By this, they eat ant.
And yes,
By this, the gut health will impact. And what's your point of view on that? If we eat ant as a diet, because they eat as a chutney, as a ant chutney.
what is my opinion? Sincerely, from month I don't know. I didn't study what are
Because it can affect the gut totally if we eat that. Still, people eating that.
I don't know. I have no idea. Sincerely, I don't know if anyone knows about this. But for example, ant is something that I didn't study. I don't know the effects of eating. Of course, this and special and when it is quite new, maybe some interactions, of course, with our organism, positive or negative. But of course, we must study. I have no idea what is the impacts. I don't know if is that your question of eating ants, eating that insect on our health. And sincerely, I don't know. It can be positive, of course, but of not. This needs to be studied, and this is an important part of the thing. If you see also, research on this topic is quite new, and now we have hundreds and hundreds of papers related with insects as foods. I think we have also a journal, a specialized journal regarding this, Journal of Insects as Food. I think it's the name or something like that. this is quite new, but with few years. And if we see a lot of papers are being published, and it is important to us to be actualized. Yes, but since we and I don't know. I don't know if anyone here have already heard about that or know something more and want to share.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, what I believe is that the trends of consuming insects it mainly arise due to the war situations which happened in this eastern region. Like for example, when we talk about Vietnam, Thailand, or
Yes.
like Taiwan. So, like due to scarcity of protein sources, was that the reason that they started consuming insects as a protein source? What do you believe? Like compared to the earlier era, and when we talk about this 100 years back, so the consumption of insects was, I think, which I believe is was started this century ago.
Yes, in some of cases it's a need. It's not. It will depends the reason for society to society and for each period of history we are talking about. Of course, if there is a conflict, if there is a war, and this is the only thing that I have to eat, or to if I don't have livestock, if this is not a question of preference or substitution or replace this protein source for another, and if I only have this, and if this is good for my basic needs and physiological, and if this has protein, so if it works, why not? And those examples in some countries, this is not a question of preference. This is a question of even survival, or this is a question of this is the only thing I have to complete my requirements, my nutritional requirements. So it will be this or nothing, and we see, and then we see that can be a good food that has a good source of proteins, and then we will study and see that the composition may be similar to other food sources, but of course, for some people, they do it because they don't have nothing. And those examples you stated out are, I believe, are cases like that.
Yeah, like because currently when I'm looking towards North Korea, so
North Korea.
when you talk about the podcast of those survivors who have fled towards South Korea and the China,
Yes,
so
yes,
mainly they'll be saying that we used to eat insects mainly as a source of food because we didn't get anything, even in today's
yes,
current situation.
yes, yes. That's one
Yeah,
example. Yes, yes, yes,
thank
yes.
you,
That's
sir.
true. We have always to see the context we are, and of course it's different to talk about the insect consumptions in Europe, or those examples you have just mentioned in the conflict countries, in very poor countries, and where the other resources are not available. It's very different. It's very different. If you have nothing to eat, of course, everything you see, you will you will try to not to die, because it's that or nothing. And if you will not, if I go to Europe and see to the people, you will have the opportunity to eat insects or nothing. Maybe it will take 1 day, 2 day, but in the third or fourth day, you try, because otherwise you are in a state of anger that you can support more. So you will try everything you have in your own. So the context is very important, of course. Thank you for sharing.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
I would like, as you talked about food neophobia, and how it influences our choices. So, do you think exposure at an early age through education or school program can be helpful in removing the hesitation towards food neophobia?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that interesting question. Yes, that is also one point why is important the food education, and to have food literacy in our population, and this must start very early in the school with children, to learn how important is to have or to include in the diet very range and variety of foods and to try everything. This is important. But of course, when we are talking about new foods, and these new foods are so bad seeing in the in our culture and connoted with diseases, with dirt. I repeat, it is always complicated. If we are talking about a new food, and I give the example of jellyfish that has not this connotation and comes from the sea, we usually consume everything or most of the things that come from the sea. It's quite different when we are talking about something that is always connected with something that is negative. But of course, I agree. I agree that it would be very important that this food literacy, food education, and start early in the schools and to teach children that perhaps in early ages have some aversions or problems in something, not only in schools but also in their homes with the parents to educate children to have a diverse diet and to try everything. You can say I don't like, but to say I don't like, you should try. That is very important and a very relevant point. Thank you very much for your for your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
I agree. I agree.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, can you tell, is there any allergenic or microbial contamination in insect consumption?
Yes, it can be. Yes, it can be. We have a lot of studies. If you go to PubMed or Google Scholar, if you include the words allergic reaction, allergen, insect food, you and microbial contamination, of course, especially in those that are not reared in controlled conditions, you will find a lot of papers related with them because it's like fish or meat, and they are protein food, very high protein content food. So of course, man, and that is one of the points we have to study their potential allergenic value. Of course, you will find a lot of research in the last years about that. Yes, yes, you can find.
Thank you, sir.
And that is why you cannot or you shouldn't go outside and catch up a grasshopper and eat. Yes, of course they are there. They can never be contaminated. Of course, microbial and other sources of contamination.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Sorry, good morning, sir. I want to ask, in your opinion, could insect consumption realistically become a sustainable global practice in the upcoming decade?
In a decade. I think it's a very huge challenge. I think that it seems a lot of time, but I think it's not. It depends. In some regions, perhaps it can be increased a lot in 10 years. But for example, I see it very difficult in the European context. I see that more products will emerge, more products will be in our shops, in our markets, and perhaps more people, especially young people, are more keen to try it. But what do you mean at a global scale? That we have people consuming more insects than pork than chicken? Are you saying that? Just to understand your question better. Yes?
As you said, it's ease of preparation and nutritional value. Maybe we can replace it.
Yes, but that point of view, it's not the most important for the people. The people first don't see that, and it can be wonderful from the point of view of nutrition and nutritional healthy. All those things are very interesting for us, for researchers, for but people that are in their lives, and especially the adult population, older population, and they see insects and no traditional of consumption, and see and worse than that, see insects connoted with dirt, with contamination, with diseases, they will not trust on you telling them this is healthy, this is nutritious, this is. They want they will not want to hear you about that. So this is what I'm saying. What do you expect regarding that large scale consumption or production? Because in some countries that will be very difficult. And being honest, I don't see it very possible to substitute at least 100 or near to 100% the other sources of food. Insects, no. We can find other, I don't know, we are talking here insects, but of course we have other plant-based products, jellyfish, other, yes, but the specific case of insects, and talking about my experience in my country in a European context, particularly, that will be very complicated. Not 10, not 20, not 30 years. The world must change a lot to have, for example, people in my country eating more insects than pork or than chicken. That is a huge challenge.
Are there any successful based food consumption, matlab, as such, any example of that?
Of success. The most successful products based on insects are, for example, cereal bars that we include them some kind of insect. For example, when you incorporate in the flour the insects and you prepare a kind of pasta or bread or cookies, those products has more success because, for example, if you fry grasshopper and people see in the plate in the dish the grasshopper or the melon or an insect, the people, that is a problem. They must be they must be even from the eyes of the people that will eat, that is eating insect. Yes, but for most of the people, even if are eating a bread made up with flour of insect-based product, if I say no, the bread you are eating was prepared with a flour that it contains insect. And most of the people when knows that, oh, okay, thank you. I will prefer the other one with wheat or corn or the thing. That is the main issue regarding the insect consumption. The insect consumption. And in these novel foods, we always say, of course, the nutritional properties, the healthy, that are very important for us because we study in the lab the nutritional content, the chemical composition, proximity, but that is not the main issue for the people. They will not hear you about all of those things if you are trying tell them to try something that she or he don't want, simply like that. No, eat insects. You are crazy. I will not eat insects. I don't care about what you are talking about, zinc, iron, vitamin, protein. I will not eat it. I'm good as I am, eating my chicken, eating my fish. I'm sorry, but I will not eat insects. You eat. That is what people say.
Thank you, sir.
And we have no examples near us in our neighbors of insect consumptions. The examples we have are in Africa, are in Asia, in different societies. So we have no rural areas in Europe that consume insects, and that can be a problem. For example, here in India, we have some regions that some part of the population eat it. In the America, the same. In Africa, the same. It's easier. You have that experience. It's easier to make some other parts of the population of the country at least try it. In Europe, we haven't that. And the part of not having that, we have a very bad connotation with the insects. It is not neutral. It is a bad, bad vision of the insects. Now, from one day to the other, let's go to eat them. It's not so easy.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an engaging and eye-opening session. It was truly fascinating to learn how something as unusual as insects could hold such great promise for our food systems. Dr. Rapso helped us understood how food neophobia influences people's acceptance of novel foods and how factors such as age, culture, and education shape our willingness to try new food sources. He also explained the remarkable nutritional value of edible insects rich in protein, healthy fats, and essential minerals, and highlighted their role in reducing environmental impact compared to traditional livestock. What really made the session stand out was how he connected science, culture, and consumer behavior, reminding us that change begins with awareness, but acceptance grows through trust and education. On that note, let's take a short tea break and carry forward these interesting thoughts in our conversations. Please be back on time as we have another exciting session lined up after this. Thank you.